Hey guys, I am John Carrick, and today we are looking at 100 Bullets 48. We are jumping ahead, what is that, 15 issues, 33 to 48. And this is Jack again, our favorite drug addict with a gun. And they are out at guys, I think they're in Florida, maybe somewhere on the East Coast. These look like mobsters they're hanging out with. They are at a nonsense zoo, a hunt and kill the animals zoo at night, but the kids can come and pet the animals during the day. The guy in charge is a guy named Garvey, and this is Jack's arm that we're looking at being mauled by a tiger. And it gets him pretty good. This is his friend Mick, Mikey, who we saw in the first issue, who went and scored drugs for Jack. Jack is a massive sort of Batman type guy. He's a big musclehead, should have been a bouncer, probably didn't do good in school because he was so athletic and just relied on that. And then he got into drugs as he grew older. But he could have been a professional wrestler, at least the way he's drawn here. I do like Brian Azzarello's, Eduardo Risso's, pardon my name, screw up there. I do like that he does this a lot. And we saw this somewhere else in another book a while back. Oh, the Conan book with the Mad Arab. They did this for his face, where his face was always in shadow. And since that came first, obviously I'm going to accuse Eduardo Risso of ripping off John Buscema, I think it was, at that point. Although it might have been a different artist for those. That was, the Mad Arab was Tarzan in the Savage Land in Pellucidar. So that must have been, it might have been John Buscema. It might not have. I think it was. It might have been one of the other famous artists from back then, though. And here's Jack after he's been scratched, and he's like, "Oh, it got me good." And he's like, "Dude, he barely got you. Go have it cleaned up." And then Jack is talking smack, and he says, "I'm going to shoot him if he does it again." Something like that. And his friend says, No, you're going to kill him? He says, "It's a tranquilizer." "Oh, what is it?" "Ketamine." And they're both like, "Oh boy, kitty cat, give me some." So they knew what ketamine was back in 2004. I think it's been around a while. And here's Garvey. This is great art. I don't like Eduardo Risso's angles. I love his illustration. I don't like when he gets into crazy angles. Sometimes it's hard to tell what you're looking at. Sometimes it's easy. I think that really depends on the colorist. I don't know if he's inking as himself or not. I didn't look up and see whether or not there's an inker. And I don't know where the credit page is. Here it is. I can't read it from here. Eduardo Risso, artist. So I guess he does pencils and inks. When they put artist, that guy gets paid for pencils and inks. Usually. And then they have a digital separations and a colorist. So it's strange that a separator gets credited. But, you know, whatever. Anyhow, these are the mobsters who want to go hunt a tiger. And this is Jack, of course, and his friend. And they're going back and forth. Jack is going to get his arm cleaned up. The mobsters are talking about all the details. They're giving this guy a hard time about, isn't he a shitbag, and isn't this wrong, and why are you going to tranquilize him first? And if I don't tranquilize him, you're never going to shoot him. If I don't tranquilize him, you're going to have to shoot him 30 times, and then it's going to suck because your rug is going to have a bunch of holes in it. And that sort of thing. And Jack goes in to get his hand cleaned. And this lady's telling him about all the money they make after they kill these animals. The skeleton gets sold, the head and the skin gets sold to the mobsters. They sell everything. And even Jack says, "What, even the guts? I guess only the guts are trash?" And she's like, "Oh God, no, the guts go to Asia. They use them there too. They use everything. Everything gets used. Everything gets sold." So Jack's got an idea. Now this is interesting. Here we get a flashback to Agent Graves. The guy that Agent Graves gave him the gun to shoot was himself, because the ruin of his life was no one's fault but his own. And we're going to talk about that where it relates to me in a little bit when we finish this issue, because I had a hell of a revelation today. Almost right before I started this video, just a few minutes before. Again, this is decent story. I won't call it indulgent this time because stuff does happen. Stuff happens. I never read Vertical. I don't know if I like the art, but it looks like a cool concept. I wonder if all the panels are straight up and down like that. Of course, the first thing that Jack does is point his new gun. These are Glocks that Agent Graves is giving out. As we all know, that's the back of a Glock at this point. You should know that if you don't. Anyhow, this is Agent Graves tells him that there's, needle or a gun, one way or the other, you're likely going to die if you don't change. What Graves is trying to do is recruit Jack to work for him because Graves uses people like tools. And when one tool gets broke, you go out and find another one and use it until it breaks. And I got a feeling he's lining Jack up for a oversized casket. Anyhow, they get through it. He tells him the gun or the needle, and he bounces. He tells him his name, Agent Graves. They stare each other down. And here Jack is back out at the zoo. Now I don't get this. This scene I don't understand. Jack was out exploring and he finds this girl dancing in front of a trailer. I guess she's hanging out in the forest somewhere doing the van life. Yeah, my eyes are shot. That's a trailer. Those are wheels. That's a canopy. She is living her best life in the forest dancing to a Sony Walkman by herself. And Jack is watching and she knows he's there. She hears him, but then the gunshots go off and these guys are back murdering the tiger. Now, she must become important later. Obviously, she's going to be Jack's escape, is my guess, because we don't see her again in the rest of this episode. But here are the floating ketamine darts hanging out with the beers in the cooler. And this guy's, one of these guys says, why don't we just shoot the tiger in the cage? He shoots it through the stomach. Now you got to get it again. They're going to go inside there and shoot it through the heart. This is a great ad. And I love everything. I was guilty of this in animation school where you take a character and you put it in a bad background or you put it in a photographic background. I did this once with Julius Caesar. It did not go over well. People thought it looked awful. And it did. But the scale was right. And this Gustave Doré drawing with this character with the white outline destroys it. Without the white outline, it would be better. It would be better still if it was done in the proper style. I never played this game. I don't know anybody who did. It's a bad ad. It's a good concept, but it's poor execution. Here we go. Garvey and Mikey talking about drugs, talking about killing tigers. And they tell him, when he comes for you, put the barrel in his mouth and pull the trigger. And they do that. This is pretty awful. Everyone hates each other. That's one thing I will give it up for this bit of drama. Garvey, who runs the zoo, hates the mobsters, but he needs their money. The mobsters don't respect him, but they want the animals. Jack hates everyone, including himself and his friend. Mikey's probably the only one who's confused about who his friends are. Here is Jack. And so here's... That happens. Okay, looks like we are kind of centered again after that collapse disaster. Let me move this back a little bit more. Let me raise this up a little bit more. There we go. There we go. That'll do. Okay, so here, Jack tells him to open the cages. And he says, okay. This guy says, Garvey, wait. He says, a minute or two for the tranquilizers to work. And he shoots one of them. But they're opening the cages, right? They're going to go in. And now they notice Jack's gun is in there. Yeah, so this guy says that's all it takes is a couple of minutes talking about the tranquilizer. A couple of seconds, actually, if you hit him in the right spot. And he won't even know where he is. And Jack says, oh, he knows. He just doesn't care. That's drugs. You know what's going on. You just don't care. Here we get, what the? And Jack says, it's mine. So they're all looking in the cage. There's something in the cage that Garvey has seen, and it is Jack's Glock. He threw it in there. Why'd you give a gun to a tiger? So Garvey asks, you gave a gun to a tiger? And Mikey answers for Jack. He says he just threw it in there. It wasn't like he was giving it to him. And one of the other guys says, one of the mobsters says, "Why'd you toss the tiger your piece?" And Jack says, "I didn't want it anymore. Is it clean? As a whistle soaked in bleach. I'll give you $300 for it." And then Garvey says, "Why don't you wait till we finish our business before you move on?" Continuing right along. Yeah, so they're going to kill the tiger. They go in to get the gun. And apparently, now somewhere between here and here, Jack's got his gun back and he's shooting people. Clip this guy. Got a couple of the other ones. He's behind the tiger, bouncing bullets off the bars. Got big dude again, twice. With the Glock. Again, everybody here hates each other. This is just how the world is right now. And if you can't admit it, you're in trouble. Because there are people out there who hate you just for being you. And you have to be aware of who they are. So we continue on. Jack's shooting all the mobsters. But he gets hit, so we bang, bang, pop. The small pop is a rifle. A handgun is a lot louder than most rifles. Rifles generally fire smaller caliber rounds. Handguns fire bigger rounds, and they have a lot shorter barrels, so the gas is escaping is a lot louder, 9 times out of 10. A 22 up against, a big rifle is not louder, but a 9 or a 45 is loud as fuck. And so anyhow, Jack is out with the tranquilizer. They're going to blow his head off. Mikey's freaking out. And half the mobsters are dead. To be continued. So, all right, let's do the next part. Hey guys, so I am going to include some drawings at the end of this that I was working on today. We were looking at 100 Bullets 48. And if you guys have been paying attention to this channel for a little while, you know that I love comics. I'm a writer and a wannabe illustrator. I've never really gotten... This looks really unbalanced. The camera looks like it's going like this. We'll see if there's a cant to it. You know how much I hate canted panels. I think there's a bunch of them in this episode too, this issue. I always want to call them episodes after television, Grew up with television. But Jack is suicidal. And Jack is a drug addict, and Jack is finally taking an evil action that will have a good outcome. So he likes the tiger more than the gangsters. Who'd have thought? And what's so interesting about this? I don't know. I want to go back and read the stuff after Counterfeit Detective. I want to know what happened with Milo. But obviously he's not doing, there's no narration in this because it's all conversation. Narration in comics is only for single characters, for solo characters, like when Wolverine's out on a solo mission or Batman and Hush. That narration at the opening of that book that Jeff Loeb did is really famous. He did a really good job of exposition in that. He laid out all of Batman's tools for the 2000s. He was wearing real boots. He wasn't wearing those no-sole sort of slip-on boots that characters wore all throughout the 70s and 80s. Yeah, there was a lot of things about Hush that were good in terms of narration and story development. A lot of the same things that are in here. It keeps moving. I don't know that this could have been compressed any more than it was, but that's also partially because I don't know what happens in the issue that comes after this. Not every issue is supposed to be self-contained. Comics are the origin of the cliffhanger, aren't they? Or one of the early adopters of the cliffhanger. Everything about a comic book depends on not just flipping the next page, but buying the next issue. So, yeah. In terms of me, again, I'm looking at the tablet, and it looks like it's slanted like this. So, anyhow, for me, I spent a lot of time drawing today, more than usual. And considering the news that I got about my eye Friday, a strange revelation came to me today. I spend more time drawing today than I usually do. sitting at the computer pretty much all day. It was really all I did. I didn't work out. I didn't do anything until this, and I didn't start this until almost 7. So I I noticed that in the past, this is really hard to say. I hope I don't get all emotional about it, but this is really hard to say. My eyes had been crossed as a kid, and I had surgery on both of them, one at 3 and one at 5. And corrective eye surgery for astigmatism, when you've got one eye going really the wrong direction, they cut the muscles off the eyeball, reattach them either with glue or, can't imagine they use stitches, but they use something. And if you've ever, like really taken apart a chicken or any kind of meat, you see all the tendons and fascia running through the muscles and how it connects to the muscles. And so there must be some way that they have of shaving the muscles off of the eyeball and take it out of your head, cut the muscles off, reattach them where they should be, and reset the eyeball in its socket. And I had that done on both eyes. So my parents, when I was born, I've talked about this before, must have been so incredibly brokenhearted and disappointed to see their child with just fucking retarded eyes the moment he was born. I was their firstborn child, so that I can't imagine the stress that caused on my parents. My father was already an alcoholic. My mom was well on her way, and I don't think I helped them. I don't think I helped them ever. I was a notoriously difficult child, and a lot of that came through social circumstances because I could not get ahead. I needed 3 times as much time as everybody else. Smarts, sure, I could read, but everything physical, I was the most retarded kid in the class. So I was religiously, and it was a article of faith in school that I was the most teased kid in every school I went to, and it sucked. And I just put my head down and suffered through it because there was no help at home and there was nowhere else to go, and it was my fault. My eyes were my fault. And the strangest thing is that most of my childhood, I wasn't even really sure, like I didn't carry this with me. It wasn't until I was older and out of the Marine Corps that an eye doctor explained to me that, dude, you can't play sports, can you? I was like, no. It's like, well, your eyes are crossed. You don't see the same point. They don't look crossed all the time, but you don't see the same point. I'm telling you all this because of what happened today. When I was sitting there drawing for hours and hours and hours, I used to, when I would get tired, have a really hard time focusing on what I was looking at on the screen or on the paper. And that was because the 2 eyes didn't focus at the same point, and it was always difficult. If I had known that, I could have been a much better artist by simply putting a patch over this eye and drawing with just the left eye. Instead, I had to wait until I was as old as I am now for my retina to go to discover that I only need one eye to draw, and that I'm a lot better using one eye, because the conflict that I was getting from this eye that didn't focus on the same point made it really, really, really hard. And it made getting better really hard. And it was the only thing I wanted. And I didn't know that my entire life. So, apologies for getting emotional, but it's not easy. So, yeah. It's a strange day. We have a comic book out here for you guys. Ashley Fox, Ninja Babysitter. Ashley and Valeria rescue a bunch of kids. Oh, we have this card too. Conflicted, number 6, number 5 of diamonds. And this is the world economy collapses because the US dollar falls apart. And so in the future collapse, to buy and sell, you have to get an RFID chip implanted in your skin. But the truth is we already have that. I don't know when this came out, but the modern cell phone is the RFID chip. And this says, would you do it? How would you participate in this new world where you have to have an RFID chip blah, blah, blah. Obviously, a lot of people are going to talk about the Bible and the mark of the beast, and that's always a big conversation whenever this comes up. The truth is, the moment that gets done, there becomes an underground pirate market economy for people who refuse to get the chip. And people who do get the chip will buy things at a discount and sell them at a profit to people who refuse to get the chip, and everybody will be happy about it. So all that's going to do is create a new black market. You're just going to put everything on the, like drug dealers will have milk and seeds and toilet paper and everything you want to buy that you don't want to go to the store and have a chip for. So anyhow, I think that's it for me for today. See you guys tomorrow.